Yeah, this is unlike any other tournament, really. The Open at St. Andrews, and it certainly hasn't disappointed being on the grounds this week. The course is incredibly firm. The greens are flawless, and the setting as you come in these closing holes is even more grand than it was 7 years ago. So very exciting. I think if you're not getting amped up to play in this Open, I'm not sure, not sure this is the right sport for you. It's extremely exciting, and I'm looking forward to getting out there. I guess I'm off at 3 o'clock-ish on the first round, so get to see a bit on how the course is really going to be playing to start, which may be a good thing, and then go out and brave the wind.
And it was a nice way to start the week with the celebration of champions yesterday. What was that experience like?
Yeah, I remember playing a practice round while it was going on 7 years ago and thinking, man, that'd be really cool to be in the next one. And it was. We got carried by Juan. He has one leg and shot one under on the 4 holes. Just absolutely striped it around him, which was incredible. And we had a good time. I'm looking forward to tonight too. This is, I think, only at St. Andrews does a Champions Dinner happen. So I'm very much looking forward to tonight and catching up with and sharing stories with a lot of, past Open champions.
Questions from floor, starting with Dan.
I don't know if you ever rewatch highlights, but how much do you remember about your run in 2015 here, and how do you see the course playing this week compared to that week?
I really don't remember but a few shots here or there. Obviously, the closing stretch Sunday, I remember. But I remember starting out, I birdied number 1, I remember on Sunday, and then, I remember 16 in, but I didn't even remember 13, 14, 15. I didn't even remember the holes until I got back on property, which is a bit odd. But I think it's going to play significantly different this year because I think we only had one day where it was maybe calm in this wind direction. The other 3 were blowing hard the other way. So it's a totally different golf course. We had driver the entire back 9. You're hitting mid-irons into greens. And now I hit a hold 4-iron on 16 that almost reached the bunker at 3 whatever, holding the wind. So it's playing totally different as far as each hole specifically. But I think score-wise, if we get any kind of wind similar to this, I can't imagine it'll get to 14, 15 under. A lot of these holes, it's just going to be really hard to hold fairways. And then from there, if you're not playing out of the short stuff, where they put the pins, the best you can do is 30, 40 feet. So I think speed control and the wind becomes more important this week than any tournament I can remember preparing for and thinking that.
Jeff, please.
Jordan, anything at the dinner tonight, any particular champions you have a question for about this place or anything in general?
I don't think so. I think, anytime you can corner Jack Nicklaus, he normally has a pretty good idea on whether it's Augusta or here or Opens in general or really any tournament. So he would be somebody that who's seen probably every single condition as well as a lot of the guys, but he won how many? Did he only win 1 Open here? 2 here. So clearly, I don't know if it would have mattered where it was, but there's certainly probably some secrets in there.
And just anything you've picked up in the practice rounds this time around that you learned about the course?
Like I mentioned, quite a bit, because you're not able to use the greens books from back then. So you're not even allowed to copy notes unless they're your own notes that you've gotten this time around. If you've gotten them not from the greens book, but instead don't miss here to this pin, then you can obviously use that information. So we have the yardage books from back then, but not the greens books. Michael does. And so I went out with Cameron and Michael yesterday evening late and tried to get out and scout a lot, because last week at the Scottish was the most unprepared I've ever been for a tournament. Coming from Tuesday night from the J.P. McManus Pro-Am, playing 9 holes Wednesday, and seeing the back 9 for the first time on a Thursday morning on a links course is about as unprepared as it can get. So I felt that I left a few shots out there on just missing in the wrong spots, just not totally recognizing where to go, and I didn't want that to happen this week. And I didn't remember a ton of the subtleties, the shapes of the hole, sure, but when they put the pin on 85 yards from the previous day's pin, you got to get some information on, where those misses are and how different that is.
On the right, number 2, please.
Do you, the 150th Open, it's a huge celebration around here. A lot of it is off the golf course here in the town and whatnot. Do you get a chance at all to go out at all to do anything in town this week?
I would not advise that to myself, no. The little time I've spent walking down the street, when you're around any golf tournament or an Open, it's not exactly, you can't exactly go incognito and partake in anything. It's very exciting. If it were the what was it last time, 143rd, maybe, I don't know, the years got mixed up with COVID, but versus this Open, it doesn't change anything for me on the golf course. Off the course, I'm trying to rest as best I can. This is 8 out of 10 weeks for me, so I'm trying to keep my legs under me and work my way into contention if I can.
Can I have one other question? When you're putting on these greens with the wind and trying to adjust in weather, is there anything specific that you do to try to be better as a putter in the wind?
You just have to have grace. You have to give yourself grace, because you can hit a putt with the exact same ball speed, 2 different putts, and depending on which wind hit it, they could be 10 to 15 feet away from each other. You could have one 10 short that would have been perfect. You could have a 5 short, 5 long. And the more you get frustrated by it, that next one becomes exponentially harder. And I noticed that I did that last week a couple times, and the ones where I gave myself grace, I knocked the next one in. The ones where I didn't, I missed it. I think it's more so than the technical aspect of it. You just have to mentally be prepared for, you're going to have some where you thought you hit a bad putt and it's going to go closer too. So you're just not used to having to putt from 30 plus yards week to week, and you might have 5 of them in a round out here.
Next question in the front here, please.
Yeah, Jordan, you've talked a lot about just enjoying the creativity that comes with links golf, with the old course. Do you feel more freed up mentally or physically when you're playing links golf?
I think physically I feel more freed up. I feel that I think they kind of go hand in hand as far as like picking out the shot, enjoying the creativity of the shot or putt. And then obviously physically, sometimes it's a little freeing that you just don't have to line it up dead straight and be perfect, but instead, you're like, all right, I got the wind here, the hill here. I'm going to hit it kind of frees you up just to be a little more feel oriented. And I really enjoy that aspect of it.
Doug, please.
What would you say the difference is between the speed of the fairways compared with the greens right now?
There are some spots in collection areas where it's still pretty green and slower, where the balls will be collecting. But then if you're talking about the brown areas to the green, I would say very similar in speed. The greens, I think, are just a smidge softer if you land it on the putting surface versus landing on short of it. But I hit a lot of putts from where I had half of the putt was off the green, half the putt was on the green. And I may have hit it incrementally harder, but than if it was all green. So I'd say somewhat similar.
And secondly, sorry, John, I know you love that, but secondly, some of these dinners tonight, and you had one at Pebble at 19, you have one at Augusta every year. At your age, how much do you find yourself talking and how much do you find yourself listening?
Very much listening. Very little talking other than if I'm at Augusta and it's not everybody listening to one story, and sometimes you have your group of 4 or 5 people around you, then you're in a normal conversation. But for the most part, you're listening because, and that's what's great about it is you get some, whether it's Mr. Crenshaw will ask, Jack to give a couple stories about this or that, or it's an anniversary of somebody's win that may not be there, and then someone will have a story about that, or Gary Player speaking Japanese to Hideki. I mean, there's just some incredible things that happen that, if you're not one of the guys who has all those stories like Jack or Gary, you normally want to just listen. I don't know, maybe I would imagine 60 plus. I don't think Tiger even wants to talk, and sometimes he gets poked to have to talk. So older than him.
John, your turn.
Jordan, you've been around over here quite a lot now, and I'm quite looking forward to these answers. What are the 3 things, or what are 3 things, not the 3 things, that you like about coming over here, probably to do with golf, but not necessarily? And what are 3 things you are less keen on about over here?
I don't know if I have all day, but to give you 6 things, but I would say it's a very nice break from the 115-degree heat index that Dallas has had for 30-something days straight. So I actually really enjoy coming over here for the weather. It's a nice break from summertime, and you get these conditions. And the style of golf, I love links golf. We don't get true links in the States, regardless of where you are, and you get true links over here. And I really enjoy playing that way. And then I really enjoy the crowds over here. I think that they're the most educated fans in all of golf. They understand when, you know, sometimes you have a pitching wedge in your hand and 30 feet's a really good shot. And they also understand when you were trying to get something closer when it wasn't so difficult. It just seemed to be very educated, and it's always a fantastic. This is a harder venue for fans, right? Because for the most part, they're pushed on the outsides of the holes and even out of bounds for a lot of the back nine. But still, with these grandstands, they're you still get the roars and kind of the appropriate. I don't know. I don't know if it's in my best interest to speak to what I don't look forward to.
Well, go on.
What would be something?
Well, something other than warm beer, for example. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I'm in these weeks, I'm not really out looking to partake in going to any pubs or anything like that. Especially, like I mentioned, it's 8 out of 10 weeks, so it's more, I guess, time change. I mean, that's a lame answer, right? But at this point, I'm pretty adapted to it from being over here for 10 plus days. So I can also say the weather. I can use that for the good or the bad, can't I?
Yeah.
That'd probably be,
Yep.
you know, one of those where sometimes you can be a little bit unsure on how exactly you're playing because you might be hitting the right shots and getting the wrong gusts and bounces, and sometimes it's the other way around. So over the course of 72 holes, you keep your head on straight, it continues to work itself out.
What about world news, for example? I mean, do you feel a lack of it, or do you find an interesting slant on it over here? Or, indeed, how much attention do you pay to it when you're over here?
To world news?
Yeah.
Not much. For the most part, at night, I'm logging in to see who's playing baseball at home. I'm not, I think that I try to keep things as stress-free for myself off the golf course as I can, and I don't believe diving into world news in a major week is in my best interest of staying stress-free. So for the most part, I try and almost shut off a bit when it comes to these weeks.
Okay, so we'll go number 2 at the back, thanks.
Jordan, what is your best Tiger Woods story from this championship through the years? Anything funny in a practice round or anything
I'm
you
not
can
sure
share?
I've even ever played a practice round with them in this event. I remember the first time I was ever paired with Tiger in a major was Saturday of the 2014 Open. Is that Royal Liverpool? And we teed off on the back nine, I remember, and I just thought, that's not like a great story. That was really the extent of it. But you never forget the first time you play with them in a major championship if you're able to do so. And I remember playing that Saturday round. I think we both had it going for a little while. I think we both shot maybe 1 or 2 or under and moved up the board quite a bit. I could be wrong on that, but first hole was par 5, number 10 out there. And you don't really get split tees very often out here in the Open. Actually, that was the first time I'd heard of it. But other than that, I don't have any great stories of being involved in any. Obviously, at Carnoustie, that was the only time I've ever been in a major where I looked at the first page of the leaderboard and saw his name and my name next to each other, which was a dream come true. And I just didn't. Well, I guess neither one of us ended up holding the claret jug at the end of the day, but that was pretty neat.
Did you learn anything in that round when you played together with him?
On that Liverpool day?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I mean, that's 8 years ago now, which is a majority of my life. So I don't, no, not particularly, no. I don't remember much specifically other than feeling like I was teeing off in the last group on a Saturday, even though we were in the middle of the pack going off the back nine. You know, just the setting. but I'd played with them earlier that season a number of times, so at least that helped.
Number 3, Rue, please.
While it wasn't the result you wanted on Sunday, and maybe not the preparation you wanted prior to the tournament, what did you take away from the Genesis Scottish Open last week?
I thought it was, I thought that the course played the way that it hadn't played in years past, and from what I had heard, and in that sense, I think it played the way they wanted to play. It was challenging, but you could also make birdies. It was a good, fair test. You know, funky holes or shots here or there, but that's how we're all going to feel about links golf when it gets windy, right? Because sometimes the ball never stops rolling. Yeah, I certainly learned a lot. You know, it was nice to get on the turf. I thought it was hugely beneficial for this week. I feel a little bit more ahead of where I've maybe felt coming into the last number of times when I hadn't played over here the week before. And as far as how far the ball goes into the wind, downwind, getting on fescue turf, judging lies out of the rough, certain pitch shots, how they bounce. So I think for the most part it was massively beneficial for this week, but I thought it was a really good tournament in itself. But I thought, man, I certainly could have shot 3 or 4 under on Sunday without a doubt, and I just hit a couple of really poor iron shots, and so I look to improve upon those this week.
And over to our right.
Hi, John. You've touched on some technical things, but I'd be interested to hear about your own psychological approach to this week, playing this golf course in this tournament with the field, including so many potential winners.
Yeah, I think it's about patience. I think it's about letting the course come to you. I think recognizing that towards the finish of this round, you have probably the highest score to par and then the lowest score to par as back-to-back holes. I imagine 17 will play the hardest this week and 18 will play the easiest. It's always a bit interesting because you're always kind of waiting for the end of the round for that kind of drama, I guess. So I think it's a tournament also where you don't have to be out in front to win. It's one where if you can post a score, sometimes it's really difficult if you're not freely hitting shots at your targets and trying to play a little bit protective. It can be, links golf can eat you up if that's the case. So I've seen both sides of that. And so I think patience is the number one word for me psychologically coming in. It's let it all come to me. Don't try and go force birdies. Wait for those downwind holes when you get some wedges or the par 5s, and then try and be under par when you reach the 18th tee box each day.
How many, sorry, just one follow-up. How many, I mean, there's a lot of golfers here. How many do you think have a real chance of winning, like a genuine chance, and how much is experience?
I imagine that number is the exact same as it is every Open that I've played. I'm not sure how that would have changed, to be honest with you. What's your take on that? I don't know what would have made, what would cause that question to be something that maybe I would answer differently than other years. I think that's to my point. It could be anybody. It could be Paul Dunn, and it could be Zach Johnson, who had played however many Opens. I didn't have any course experience last year, and I make that putt on 17. I think 18 becomes a little easier to birdie. So I think the Open, unlike I would say Augusta, you'd say typically you want to have a bit of course knowledge. Historically, it shows that. The Open, I think it could be anybody.
Right, we'll take these final 3 that we have, so starting with 1, please.
George, there's been a lot of talk in the sport about guys wanting to play less, and you're, as you mentioned, playing 8 of 10 now. Just curious where you are physically and whether that's a concern at all, knowing how patient you have to be and how mentally sharp you have to be by Sunday.
At this point in my life, I love playing golf. I love playing professionally. I don't want to not play to go do something else. That's where I'm at. This is what I do. So I feel really good. I'll do my ice baths. I'll do my Normatec boots. You know, I'll do what I do on the back end of long stretches to feel like I have fresh legs. But as far as mentally, like I don't get burned out from this right now, especially a week like this. So I have no I wouldn't say I've ever played 30 plus events in a year, but I've never played less than 22 or whatever. So I don't see that changing anytime soon. And I really, really enjoy it week to week. Did I miss the back end of that question? Was there something I didn't answer? I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll move to number 2, thanks. No, number 2, thanks.
Jordan, why do you think this course has stood the test of time?
Because of the weather? I don't think it stands the test of time if it's benign. When Louis won, what did he win at? 22 or something under? Or more? Am I wrong on that? I thought he was over 20 under. Figured somebody in here would have that answer for me. It was at 16, was that it? If the conditions are calm for 4 days, which I don't think happens over here, I think that with today's technology, it becomes a shootout. But I think, we didn't finish till a Monday in 2015 because of wind delays and such, and I think the conditions make it to where you still have to play from the certain spots. Holes narrow up at some point. As you play this back 9, you can't hit driver on 13, you can't hit driver on 15, you can't hit driver on 16. There's just nowhere to hit it, unless you're going to play it to the fescue. So you're still playing into the greens from the spots that it's designed to be played from. When it's downwind and into the wind, you got to try and bust driver just to get to those spots. So I think regardless, it forces you to play from certain locations. No matter what, that makes you have to hit off the tee, and from there, it's certainly a challenge. You can get to those spots easier without wind, and then those next shots are exponentially easier. The approach shots get exponentially easier when the wind's down, and that's where the scores start getting lower. But I think it's conditions. I can imagine at most links golf courses that's the case, right? So that's not to this specifically.
Do you think of yourself as a better golfer now or when you were here in 2015?
I think of myself as having a bit more momentum in 2015. I don't know how you can have more, but I think there's certain parts of my game that I feel are stronger, and there are certain parts of my game where I'm just trying to get right back to where they were at that point in time. So I would say if I played against myself then, if I beat myself then this week, then I would be holding the trophy. So it'd be obviously certainly a big challenge, but I don't necessarily know that I could answer that because I feel I hit it further. I feel that my knowledge round to round of seeing a lot more majors and a lot more tournaments can mentally make me just a little bit, maybe I have some advantage on a shot that I wouldn't have thought about then. But I was also canning everything that I looked at then, and I can't say that that's going to happen every week forever, but certainly can happen in 4 days.
And our final question now from Dan, thanks.
Without trying to make you feel old, you've played in a number of Opens now, and so I'm curious, St. Andrews compared to the other venues, what do you need to do well here especially versus some of the other ones you've played?
I don't think that there's anything different here versus other venues that I've played. I think there's a big premium on putting the ball in the fairway and keeping it out of bunkers. That's really the number one key. If I can put the ball in the fairway, keep it out of fairway bunkers off the tee, then I believe that I'll have a good chance. I think that's most important here. You get enough short clubs in your hands, and I feel that's a nice advantage to me. I feel confident in my ability to get it in quickly when I'm playing from the fairway with short irons.
All right, well, Jordan, thank you for your time.
Thank
We
you.
really appreciate it. Best
Thank
of
you.
luck this week.
Thank you.